Tonight, Q exposes exactly who the deep state is, and he gives us an inside look at why President Macron and the EU are desperately trying to keep the United States in the Iran deal. Hi, I'm Craig, and welcome to Just Informed Talk. For those of you who don't know, I start off every one of these episodes by thanking every one of my subscribers, because without you guys, this channel wouldn't exist. So thank you to every one of you. If you have not hit that subscribe button, now's a great time to come here to this landing page. Click the big red subscribe button and make sure you hit the bell for notifications. That way, as soon as these videos get posted, you'll be notified, because as soon as information is made available to me, I do my best to make it available to you. Now, jumping right into the latest Q, we have a lot to cover. So, we're going to start by talking about this post right here, which is, if you guys want to get an idea of where we left off, you can, by all means, go back and watch the latest QAnon post videos, and you'll get an insight to all of that. But today we're going to talk about some different things, in my view, a little more important things, talking about very, very important issues that we should be covering. So, let's jump right into this, okay? This is really, really a fascinating episode. We're going to start off by reading this. And what this is from a previous post that Q put up. He's referencing here. And it was a post that he was referencing in the reference. I guess that's kind of getting a little lost, hopefully not in too many people. But this was a previous Q post from April 27th. This was a Q post here from May 4th where he referenced this old one. Now, this old one was telling us about how, I'll blow it up for you guys so you can read it. Telling us about how if we focus on the FBI, Jim Rubicki was fired, James Baker was fired, Andrew McCabe was fired, James Comey was fired, Bill Priestap, Peter Strzok, and Lisa Page were all basically stripped of their power and turned into cooperating witnesses. And Q says, conspiracy? Well, I don't think so. And if you go into the next one, there's even more information now. This is the updated one, where Q actually goes through each individual and tells us about, like, James Baker and how he was fired. He reported that he resigned, but that was false. He was removed in January and fired on April 21st. And then the same thing with Lisa Page, how she said that she resigned and it was actually false, that they had testimony. They talk about Michael Cortan. They talk about Josh Campbell, David Loffman, John Carlin, Sally Yates, Mary McCord, Bruce Orr, Rachel Brand, and it gives the exact explanation behind all of them who were either cooperating witnesses or they were fired or forced out for their complicity in this illegal criminal actions taken by government officials. Obviously, it's being exposed by military intelligence along with Trump administration. So you look through them and it says cross against the House Senate resignations and final terms and CEO departures, and it says conspiracy, fake news. And it's telling us the swamp is being drained and trust the plan. So that's what Q is pointing to in this first post here. And what we were going to read into it, sorry about that, is what Q says here. It says sealed indictments, define indictment. Quote, an indictment is a formal accusation against one or more defendants charging them with one or more crimes. In the federal criminal system, the indictment is the principal method by which a prosecutor initiates criminal proceedings. Unquote. So it's telling us, giving us the definition of an indictment. So it's a formal accusation against one or more people that is for one or more crimes. It's pretty simple, right? It's saying, how are they sealed? How are they secured? How are they safeguarded? No leaks, federal versus state, I'm assuming is what they're referencing here. Why are accusations sealed? Grand jury involved? Reread Crumbs regarding DOJ, FBI, regarding Inspector General and Huber. It says, who appointed Huber? Sessions? What departments must be cleaned prior to receiving fair and equal justice under the law? What happens if Fed criminal indictments are brought forth to a corrupt FBI, DOJ, Fed judge? FBI, DOJ first, CIA, State Department next. Now comes the pain. Q. Okay, so Q keeps saying that this is going to be the month or the time that we're going to bring the pain on these people. And what he's talking about here is first, talking about the sealed indictments is an interesting thought. So the reason that Q is telling us to look at sealed indictments, excuse me, and giving us the definition of the indictment is because he wants us to look at how they are sealed and how they are secured and how they are safeguarded. No leaks and how that's unusual. Well, what he's saying basically is he goes on to say is this cannot be that they put out these sealed indictments for no reason, right? Rather to say, actually, they didn't put out the sealed indictments. The sealed indictments have stayed unleaked. Well, it's saying that there's being safeguarded and secured, but by what entity? And everybody knows that the entities that would be safeguarding and secure that would be the judicial system, the Department of Justice. They'd be the ones in charge of, protecting and keeping sealed the sealed indictments. Now, federally sealed indictments and state sealed indictments go different agencies obviously are going to be controlling those, but Q wants us to go on and read the post before regarding the DOJ and the FBI. And when you look at all that in context, it actually makes perfect sense what Q is referring to. So first we're going to read this post from January 22nd, but it says, what would happen if texts originating from an FBI agent to several internals discussed the assassination possibility of the POTUS or member of his family? What if the text suggests foreign allies were involved? Forget the Russian setup, one of 22. This is only the beginning. Be careful what you wish for as the world turns. Could messages such as those be publicly disclosed? What happens to the FBI? What happens to the DOJ? What happens to special counsel? What happens in general? Every FBI, DOJ previous case could be challenged. Lawless. Think logically. We haven't started the drops regarding human trafficking and sacrifices yet. Worse. Those good who know cannot sleep. Those good who know cannot find peace. Those good who know will not rest until those responsible are held accountable. Nobody can possibly imagine the pure evil and corruption out there. Those you trust them are the most guilty of sin. Who are we taught to trust? If you are religious, pray. 60% must remain private, at least for humanity. These people should be hanging. Q. And that's exactly what I think Q is trying to tell us here. The indictments are important and they have to remain sealed, because if you unseal the indictment and you bring it to a judge who is not, honest and upright, moral and ethical, and they're in the deep state, or they're in the cabal, or they've been corrupted, or they're politically motivated, partisan, and just completely unable to make fair decisions, then it's going to be a complete wash. These guys they're going to walk into the court and they're going to walk out a week later completely cleared of all charges. And then you're between a rock and a hard place because of double jeopardy. You can't bring the same charges twice. So, you have to understand that this is what Q is telling us, right? And then he wants us to go also read what the Inspector General Huber posts would be saying. Now, when we go to those, this is another good point. He's talking about why was it made public? John Huber appointed by, removed by, reappointed by, why the reboot, think logically, history books, right? And the next Huber post is talking about how April we were going to have Rod Rosenstein problems and serious public attack, but it's saying why was Huber made public? Why now everything has meaning, right? So interestingly enough, Q references Huber another time where it's saying trust Sessions, trust Ray, trust Kansas, trust Horowitz, and trust Huber, Q. So Huber is going to be in charge of some pretty big stuff, and in my opinion, Huber is going to have some of the more important tasks when it comes to cleaning up or draining the swamp, as it were, because he's going to be able to bring these indictments from the grand jury. But that's the tough part here. That's what Q is basically telling us that we have to be aware of. Excuse me, this thing keeps jumping around here. And it's saying why do we have to look back at Huber? Who appointed Huber? It was Huber. It was Sessions. What departments must be clean prior to receiving fair and equal justice under the law? Well, it's obviously got to be the FBI and the DOJ and the federal judges. Yeah, the federal judges. Those are the people who are some of the worst. And we can't bring some of these. I mean, look at what happened to Trump's attorney, Michael Cohen, in court. The darn judge overseeing the case had just recently married George Soros to his third wife and was a socialite with him and a former Playboy bunny or wannabe Playboy bunny. So, I mean, and I'm not saying there's anything, well, actually, if you want to be a Playboy bunny, go ahead. But I'm not, thinking that those are the people who are going to be the next federal judges, even though, who knows? You can't judge a book by its cover, I guess. But anyway, this is literally what we are looking at here. And Q's pointing it all back to say, what happens if the indictments are brought forth to a corrupt FBI, to a corrupt Department of Justice, to a corrupt federal judge? They'll get thrown out immediately. So the first thing we've been doing now is cleaning out the FBI and the DOJ. This is a part of draining the swamp. Obviously, he's showing us this to tell us, I've given you a long list of everyone who has been fired and removed from power, who have been proven to be deep state slimeball scumbags. And the ones who haven't been fired are now cooperating and working against the cabal. But he's saying the CIA, the deep state, and the State Department maybe is next. I don't know if that's deep state or State Department, but I'm guessing State Department off the top of my head. But it could be the deep state in the CIA and deep State Department. But it's saying now comes the pain. So now we're going to start ratcheting up on those people, which is good. All right. And now the next one. Q just puts this link here. And what does this link go to? Who are we? And it says, we are Americans, former senior officials and policy experts, academics, and civil society leaders who have seen firsthand how the United States is stronger, safer, and more respected in the world when we stand strong with our allies, pursue principled diplomacy, and stay true to the values that have long defined America at home and abroad. Who defines those values? Who?
A quarter-pound double cheeseburger and top.
Apologies for that. You have ads just popping up in the background here. But we will continue. Now, it gives these two guys, Ben Rhodes and Jake Sullivan, National Security Action co-chairs. And they were on, this is like a former Obama advisory council of people who were helping him to develop foreign policy and develop domestic policy. So it's very interesting to see who these people are, but you go through this list and it's just a bunch of liberal Obama supporters, Obamaites, whatever you want to call them, former Obama administration individuals, and they just, I haven't gone through each and every one of them yet, but I can tell you right now that the picture that's being painted for these individuals is not looking very good. These are the individuals who make up what you would call the deep state. Some people you recognize, like Samantha Power and her skeleton face, and other people you may not know really that well. But I can tell you right now, like Susan Rice and all of these people are involved in one of the biggest conspiracies against a duly elected president, in my opinion, allegedly, ever seen in the history of our time, right? And these people are working here at this, they look like, I don't even know, they just they look freaky is what I'm getting at. And they're all here in a good list for us to basically reference who exactly they are. And this is the advisory council that was put together to help basically undermine our country. And these two are the ones in charge of it. And they look like slime balls. So you guys help me out here and just continue to dig on this. And we're going to keep reading Q because he's going to go into this further. So an AN0N posts here, right? He takes screenshots of what we just went over in that website, right? And the AN0N posts it. And then the AN0N writes, we are Americans, former senior officials and policy experts. And it's talking about what we just read, right? And it's saying, well done, AN0N, right? Okay. So let's keep looking. The next one says loop Q. And it's referring back to the post that takes you to this website. Now, what is Loop? Well, this you guys will certainly like. And we're going to go ahead and just pull this up. And it is talking about, of course, as you all are probably aware, if you've been following this channel for a while, and if not, you wouldn't be, Loop Capital. So it's talking about how the CEOs and board of directors paying to play, and that there were slush funds created through Loop Capital for Obama in Singapore of 29 million, McCain 19 million in Singapore. And this is why it's so important. Everybody keeps referencing the North Korea meeting in Singapore. What else is going to be handled by the president while he's in Singapore is a good question. And that HRC and Bill Clinton have 15 million in Mexico, and that Nancy Pelosi has 8 million in Deutsche Bank, and on and on and on. And these are the loudest voices in Washington, and their net worth doesn't match up with their salaries or their investments half the time. Like when Hillary invested in cattle futures and turned, what was it, like a $5,000 or $10,000 investment into $100,000 or $500,000 profit. So it's telling us to go back and look at Loop Capital, right? So you guys know Loop Capital, it's telling us to follow the money, right? Loop Capital Markets. This is a company that's basically been implicated here by Q as saying we should not lose focus on Loop Capital. This is where it seems that Q is alleging they've been laundering all the money out that's being paid by other countries like the EU and other countries from the EU and other places in order to buy off our politicians, right? So that's the definite reference that Q is making there. I can say that pretty definitively. Most people would see Loop and not really understand it if you haven't been following this for a while. But obviously, I think I've had enough seeing that. I've seen it enough to think it is a direct reference to Loop Capital and how these people were some of the big players in moving money through Loop Capital, right? And this AN0N actually selected the important people to look at. And I think we're going to keep studying this as Q keeps pointing these things out to us. But the next one, an AN0N post here. FBI and DOJ must clean. Once cleaned, implications huge. Don't forget the judges, though. Many compromised, as in comped. Q responds, why are Democrats slow walking POTUS federal judge nominations? Watch what happens minus 30 Q. So within 30 days, are we going to have some large scale movement toward actually clearing these nominations for the president of the United States? Because this is literally unheard of. I mean, it's frustrating to a degree, but then also you have to understand that, it just makes the Democrats look that much more guilty if they're trying to slow walk every single appointment the president tries to make with the clear intention to hinder his administration's ability to duly execute the mandate of the people who elected him. Then they are obviously working against we the people. They are obviously not for us as a country. And they have so many brainwashed swaths of masses wandering around with their head dug in their phone and their head dug firmly up their own you-know-what so terribly that they can't even see the truth right when it's staring them right in the face, which is that people like Maxine Waters and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and all of these people are the opposite of patriotic Americans, in my opinion. They're obviously working against us and obviously trying to sabotage our government. But this is a good one. The AN0N post here, he posts that link that Q put up that we went over of who are we, right? And he says the shadow government, and like as in a response to who are we. And Q just references that post. He doesn't say anything. And that speaks volumes. That's what Q is telling us. This is the deep state. This is the shadow government. This is the advisory council of unelected, unappointed, non-elected officials trying to work to dictate the policy of the American government to suit their will and the will of a very small few, not the will of the people at large, or not to do what's best for our country, our safety, security, whether it's economic or otherwise. Yeah, that's what we're up against here. These are the scumbag elite globalists in their cabal of unelected trying to mimic the EU, where you have an unelected body controlling the government at large. That's what they've tried to do. That's what they tried to set up, and that's what Q and Trump are actively trying to destroy, along with others who are involved in this. So we got to go on to the next one. So it's saying, an AN0N post here, Q is saying there won't be arrests until the justice system is cleaned out. That has to include state judges. Do you have any idea how long that will take? We are now looking at next year for the rest of POTUS judges to be confirmed. That's just federal judges, doesn't include state. Q says in response, what must happen pre-11/11? 11/11 provided as a strategic marker. Post-midterms, red wave coming, strength, justice, Q. Okay, so, I mean, pretty obvious, but for those of you who don't know, 11/11 is November 11th, which is Veterans Day, and it will be the military parade that's going to be scheduled for Washington, D.C. And it's good that, we're doing that, because I'm very happy and proud of our military at large, and I think all of them deserve the credit of a parade to honor them and their heroic service for our safety and security. And it's definitely a statement to the globe that we believe in our military and that we support our military and that we are not in this infighting battle against our military, because they're obviously going to be the ones that go and protect us by putting their lives on the line for ours. So we have to have respect for that, and it's good. But Q's been dropping that 11/11 a lot, and it's talking about how this is going to be a historical parade. It's going to be a historical day. There's going to be so many great things happening. And they're saying that post the midterm elections, will it be a red wave that's coming? Well, obviously, if you look at what's happening across the country with the elections, and you have right now the primaries going on, you can see that Trump does hold a lot of sway, and that his rallies are definitely helping out those who need to be elected. Because if we really want to avoid hindering and basically stalling out his entire second half of his first term as president, with the Democrats achieving a majority in the House, they could actually start an impeachment process, and then that would just drag on forever. And we know the president's innocent. We know he didn't do anything. We know the Russia collusion investigation was a hoax. And if anything, the Democrats, the DNC, and Clinton campaign are far more complicit in colluding with the Russians than Trump ever was. And that they were even setting him up actively using state functions like or state agencies like the FBI in order to plant moles inside the Trump campaign, trying to basically create a trap for Trump to walk into that he never walked into, because he's not guilty. So let's read Q+. He gives us this great message here. We're still debating who Q+ is. There's obviously a few Q ANONs out there, and then there's Q+, who is obviously somebody distinct and different. People have guessed it in the past. It was Admiral Rogers. People have guessed it's President Trump. People have guessed it's Mike Pence. People have guessed it's Mike Pompeo. And then you ring through the line of people that it's been guessed that they are Q+. But whoever Q+ is, they always have the right message at the right time. And it's a message to be understood by everybody. Quite simply put, it says, trust must be earned. Trust is not blind, nor is truth. We fight every single day on behalf of you, the people who put us here. We knew this day would come. We will never forget. Do not glorify us. We are merely the vehicle. You are what matters. You are hope. You are love. You are peace. Stay united. Stay united. Stay together. Stay strong. This is bigger. Excuse me. I don't know why it's jumping. This is bigger than any one person or entity. You are fighting for truth collectively. Will of the people. Trust in yourself. The choice will always be yours. God bless you all. Where we go one, we go all. Q+. Well, I mean, I don't need to break this down. I mean, this is very straightforward. Something that did jump out to me right off the bat that I thought was a little bit interesting is the typo that you see here where he says every single day. Now, misspellings Q's have told us in the past matter. And I'm not sure exactly how this actually correlates to anything in particular, but if you guys have any thoughts in the comments, he says we must fight every single day on behalf of you instead of every single. Now, it could be a simple typo, or it could be something much less. So again, if you guys have any idea what every sigil is referring to, if it was just a typo, but we know misspellings matter, and Q is definitely letting us know something. Usually for Q plus to do it, we have to see what that means. All right, we'll have to give time to really put that all together. I'll keep researching as I always do every day, and we will figure it out together. But it says a group, and this is the next Q post, and it starts with this quote. It says, a group representing German trade interests said the U.S. decision to withdraw from the Iran deal will hit German companies and urge the EU to protect their interests. Trade between Germany and Iran reached 3.4 billion euros, $4 billion last year, according to BGA, another foreign trade association. Q says, what about Total SA? Total SA is a French multinational integrated oil and gas company and one of the 7 super major oil companies in the world. And then it cuts to this article. And this article here is from the Iran Daily. And it's saying European businesses most affected by U.S. sanctions on Iran. Going through the list, it talks about each one. Now, interestingly enough, in the article here, it says, so far, first we'll start here. It says the U.S. says the sanctions will also sharply curtail sales of oil by Iran, which is currently the world's 5th largest oil producer. In the case of oil sales, there will be a 180-day period for countries to wrap up existing contracts. So far, French oil company Total SA has been the most aggressive Western oil company to move back into Iran, signing in July a $5 billion 20-year agreement with Iran. So think about it this way. This company just signed a $5 billion 20-year agreement with Iran, who's about to get slammed by U.S. sanctions if they don't get involved with the deal. What is that going to mean for U.S.-EU relations as far as the French go, right? Well, we all know that the president of France, Macron, was in Washington recently, and it just came out today or yesterday that France's Macron was telling Trump he's worried about the Middle East stability after withdrawal from the Iran deal and how it's going to destabilize the Middle East, right? Yeah, okay. We believe that for not more than 1 second, right? It says, who recently visited the White House? What was their purpose? Coincidence? What about the safety and security of the world? What about preventing Iran nuclear capabilities? Fake news. Will the EU resort to protecting the deal so the money flow remains in place? Why is Kerry in the EU? Will the US be forced to ban and declare certain EU countries off limits? Who controls elected leaders? Who do elected leaders report to? Pickle. Will Iran expose the names of corrupt officials? Pickle. Will the US expose the names of corrupt officials plus con deal? We await your answer. 48. On guard, Q. Well, interestingly enough, there's an explanation to all of this that seems to make pretty much good sense to me. What Q is suggesting here, and first they're talking about how the EU has this $4 billion in trade agreements with Iran, basically, or just Germany does with Iran. And then, you have Chancellor Merkel, who is just at the White House. Then you have Total SA, which has a $5 billion 20-year contract that they just signed with Iran. So why were they both at the White House? Why did they come to the White House? What was their purpose? Was it a coincidence? Absolutely not. It was not about Q basically telling us it was not about the safety and security of the world. It was not about preventing Iran nuclear capabilities. It was fake news. That's what you were seeing because that's what they told you it was about. What the real questions that were being asked is Trump was asking them if they're going to protect the deal so that the money keeps rolling into Iran from Europe. And Trump's made it very clear that he is ready to place sanctions in order to get this deal done because he just took us out of the Iran deal. So he wants to make a better deal that will get rid of the nuclear get rid of the nuclear possibility for Iran and take away all of their enriched uranium and all of their latest technology developments in nuclear technologies, nuclear weapons technologies, that is. So it says, why is Kerry in the EU? So, but think about this for a second, though. So you have Macron and Merkel in the White House basically begging Trump to stay in the Iran deal because they have these huge deals in place that are going to very much negatively affect their economies and the people who they're beholden to. Imagine how beholden to some of these companies, because they're the globalists. Like Macron is totally beholden to probably total SA, so that they're the ones pulling the puppet strings, right? And it's saying, and he's on behalf of them lobbying, saying, you can't step out of this deal because if you put on those sanctions, then these companies are going to lose billions of dollars, right? And then on the other hand, you have Merkel, who's probably beholden to all those companies who've invested the $4 billion into Iran. And they're pressuring her to go to the White House and talk to Trump. And Trump's saying, no, it's a principle of the deal is we're going to put sanctions back on them if they don't agree to abide by our rules. And then the question Q is asking is the EU going to uphold the deal and just keep flowing money into Iran while we're in the middle of actively putting on sanctions? And it's saying, what is Kerry? Why is Kerry in the EU? And now you have this. You have John Kerry. He's in Europe, and he's giving speeches in Milan telling Europe needs to believe in itself. And he's, and he's also here on Zero Hedge. This just came out that John Kerry was spotted in a secret meeting with Iranian officials as Bolton threatens EU firms with sanctions. Because now they're threatening to sanction the EU. And rightfully so, in my opinion, if you consider the fact that the things that Q is telling us. But I mean, it's funny. This article literally just came out not too long ago. And it's just something to be very, very closely examined when it's talking about will the U.S. be forced to ban and declare certain EU countries off limits? Yeah, I don't know, because what would happen is if certain countries decide not to abide or to agree to our sanctions, and they keep funding the terrorist dictatorship of Iran that we've obviously been working against. I mean, there's moderate factions in Iran. I'm not saying the whole country is sadistic, but the people who are in control for the most part hate America and are obviously doing everything they can to thwart our ability to make peace in the Middle East, as we have actively been seeking since Trump's been elected. We're not actively seeking out wars and foreign quagmires. We're actually trying to find solutions. So, but Q says, who controls elected leaders? Who do elected leaders report to? Well, they report to their donors. They report to the companies, the big companies that put the money in the coffers, that keep their campaigns afloat, that end up giving them the kickbacks and the bribes that they want, right? So that's what it's saying. And there's going to be a standoff, it seems, with the EU about this. So we're going to have to wait and see how that all pans out. Now we have this interesting thing where it's saying pickle and pickle. And it's saying, will Iran expose the names of corrupt officials? So the pickle is, I think, referring to this thing, it's like in baseball where you're between bases and you're between two people who have the ball, and you're trying not to get tagged out. That's called being in a pickle. But I mean, also you guys know the colloquial term of being caught in a pickle, where it's like a rock in a hard place. It's like a difficult situation. But another person over here actually had an interesting take on it that I wanted to bring to you. It's from over on the Reddit boards, and it's this guy smiling anger, this person saying, interesting, Warren Buffett bought, for all practical purposes, Heinz a few years ago and merged them with Kraft. Because people were saying that John Kerry's wife is the pickle that was being referenced, which I'm not sure that's exactly what Q meant. But it's saying bought Heinz a few years ago and merged them with Kraft Foods While, sorry, I couldn't say that, creating indirectly a tax-free spinoff of Mondelez, now the makers of Oreos. That President Trump had fun shaming for moving Oreo production mostly to Mexico. And Warren Buffett is on the board of NTI, along with California Governor Jerry Brown and a little guy named Moniz. Now, if you guys don't remember Moniz, he's that long gray-haired guy who looked like Beethoven, kind of. And he was a proponent of the deal, and he was with Kerry in Iran, and they were negotiating, and he was telling people, and it's saying here, the AN0N says, or Smiling Anger says, Moniz was one of the main guys pushing for adoption of the Iran agreement in the congressional hearing. That's what he's saying. Man, was he pushing for it, basically saying anyone against it was just too stupid to understand how wonderful it was. Okay, I'm coloring that a bit, but not much. And so it's saying Hines, Pickle, Buffett, California, Pelosi, Feinstein, Kamala Harris, Jerry Brown, NTI, Moniz, Iran, and NTI being involved in Syria, chemical nuclear advisors. And he's saying, what are we up against here? And it's basically just that. And I thought that was an interesting put together. Because I tend to see what he's drawing to, and I don't think this is necessarily what he meant by pickle when Q was posting it, but still a great thought nonetheless, and a good connection here. And don't forget this Moniz guy. You guys can go look up a picture of him if you want. He looks like a weirdo Beethoven. I'm sorry. He just looks like an interesting person. If you heard him talk, he's just a kind of a very strange, odd man who was basically a big proponent of the deal with Kerry and doing this Iran deal and negotiating with Obama and all them. He was one of their top advisors on it. So he's the one who put this all together. So what we've just covered and what we've just uncovered through what Q is saying is that Moniz and Kerry and Obama administration officials were so corrupt that they went to Iran and they got the corrupt officials over there to get in bed with them. So now they're caught in a pickle because the Iranians, even if they wanted peace and wanted to come to the table with the United States, how are they going to reconcile the deals that they made with the corrupt officials beforehand, right? How are they going to reconcile the complete underhanded and secretly deceptive nature of the Iran deal and its construct and form? How are they going to avoid exposing that? So that's the pickle. That's the conundrum they find themselves in. So and you can tell it's interesting. Q puts it in a pickle. That it's funny. It's in a pickle, right? It's in between two pickles. So that's what it is. And it's saying, will the U.S. expose? And then it's saying on our part, will we expose the names of the corrupt officials? Plus, the con of the deal. How the deal was a con against Iran and the United States. I mean, it's not benefiting the Iranian people for them to have a bunch of nuclear weapons and still be the poorest country. Because they're just selling oil to profit the super rich oil tycoons. And it's saying we await your answer 48. So I don't know if that's 48 hours, 48 days, a timetable. I mean, this is obviously a board that's used to communicate with people. It's not just for us. And there's messages being sent here. So it's saying they have 48 hours, I would assume, to answer, or we're going to see an answer in 48 hours. We will have a decision in 48 hours if the corrupt officials are going to be named and exposed. So that would be very interesting to see what ends up happening with that. So we are on guard until then. So you guys definitely stick with it. And you guys let me know what you think in the comments about anything you want to contribute. And the next post is pretty simple. It's got a picture of Bashar al-Assad, the leader of Syria, the man who we call the vicious animal, who is, basically a dictator who's just massacring his people, even though it's a very, very complex situation. He's not the only bad actor in it, but him with who else but John Kerry and Nancy Pelosi with Bashar al-Assad too. But they hate him so much. But everything comes full circle, as Q says here. He says full circle right after giving us these pictures. And then he gives this article at The Hill talking about Umma Abedin's ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, we've gone over this before, but it's important to note that the whole connection between Umma Abedin and the Clinton Foundation and Hillary Clinton, she was Hillary Clinton's top aide. She's been connected through her family to the Muslim Brotherhood, and it's been alleged that she basically was an implant by the Muslim Brotherhood in order to be a handler for Hillary after they had basically hijacked the government through blackmail. And then there are other people that they connect to by saying, if you go back and look at it, we'll look at it for a second, but it says, and then it gives this one. And this is the Michelle Bachmann letter. And we've actually gone over this before. So I'm not going to go over it again, but I will tell you this. If you read this letter, right, you can go find it. It's just, you Google Michelle Bachmann, put July 13, 2012, and Keith Ellison, and you should be able to pull this up very quickly on scribe.com. But you'll read through this, and it's basically her writing a letter saying that there are people who are Brotherhood operatives within the U.S. government. and they may have directly influenced the U.S. intelligence community's assessment of the Muslim Brotherhood. So, I mean, think about it. People like James Clapper, people like John Brennan, that raisin-faced turd muffin, he is an obvious Muslim Brotherhood deep plant. You have Uma Abedin, who is the handler for Hillary. You have Valerie Jarrett, who is the Iranian handler for Obama. And you have them all working in tandem to create a large conspiracy to defraud our government, allegedly. This is all crazy. If that doesn't make you upset, I don't know what will. You can come read through this for yourself, but it's talking about how there's just this complete infiltration of our government by the Muslim Brotherhood, and that they have a written plan for how they're going to take down our government through infiltration. Through things like CARE, the Center for American Islamic Relations, and other organizations that have infiltrated our country and are continuing to infiltrate. Just as Australia is being infiltrated by the Chinese and New Zealand, you have in America, the Chinese are also infiltrating, but then you have the Muslim Brotherhood. You have our country being infiltrated on all sides. So, forget about Russians. What about the Chinese and the Muslim Brotherhood? You know, I mean, these are the true, clear, and present dangers to our country that I think that we're really glancing over. But that will be for you guys to decide. I want to leave that to you guys in the comments. Leave your response. But it's saying it's all connected. Welcome back, Huma. Now comes the paying Q. So we're reintroducing Huma. We're going to have to wait and see, because a lot of this stuff is going to be revealed in future proves past type thing. We're going to see things in the news in the upcoming week or weeks that's going to show that Q is pointing us in the right direction. And there's so much there already to tell us he's pointing us in the right direction. Just take this article from Zero Hedge about John Kerry that we went over, and how he's having secret meetings with Iranian leaders. So this is all going to come to pass, I believe. We're going to have to wait and see how it all pans out. I hope that this video was good, a good informative tool for you guys to get an idea of what the latest posts are talking about. But if you're looking for a way to contribute to the channel, the easiest way to make a contribution, and it doesn't cost you anything and helps me out big time, is if you have not hit that subscribe button, please come here and hit the big red subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications. That's the easiest way. The second best way you can contribute, my favorite way, is for you to scroll down at the end of this video, leave your thoughts, theories, insights, and comments, and whatever you think about what we just went over. And because we try to have our own QAnon research board at the end of each one of these videos. So you guys, we go through, we talk about what the Q posts mean, what their possible meanings could be, different topics of interest when it comes to discussing Q and the possibilities of everything that we cover here. So I guarantee, even if you can't comment, just scroll down and read through the comments. You're going to learn something you didn't know previously. Now, if you're looking for another way to support the channel, I need all the help I can get. Please come over here to patreon.com. That's patreon.com. And search Just Informed Talk. And when you come to this landing page, click this button to become a patron. Come check out my rewards and my goals. There's some interesting stuff. It's not a one-way street. You can get a cool hat and other things if you contribute. But it helps me out. It helps keep this channel going. And every single contribution helps out big time to keep this channel alive and running. So if you guys want to keep seeing Just Informed Talk, please come here and contribute. I really appreciate it. But it's contribute at your own will, and I really appreciate it. And thank you in advance to everybody who's come here and contributed already, and everybody who will come here. Or thank you in advance to everybody who will come here, and thank you to everybody who has contributed already. So let's go over the last thing, which is always the most important thing, and this is a special one. I want to say a happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there, because without good parents, and some kids don't have the privilege of having two parents, but some kids just have a mother, and that's another reason why Mother's Day is important. But God even tells us in the Bible about the beauty of motherhood and why it's so important. And I think that we're going to read a verse here that's going to really basically show the importance of mothers. And to all the mothers out there, I want to say God bless each and every one of you, and thank you. And please, please just continue to raise your children to be good men and women who love and worship God first, but are logical, critical thinkers who will end up helping our country and contributing as a whole. I know it's a tough task for some people, but it's a worthwhile endeavor, surely. So thank you to every mother out there, and a special happy Mother's Day to all the moms who are with us here today. And I just want to remind you, in case you're watching this video and you go, oh crap, you may want to run out and grab some flowers and bring your mom a card if you have forgotten that. So we're going to read Proverbs chapter 31, verses 25 to 31. And it's just an amazingly beautiful description of what a mother really is. And it says, strength and honor are her clothing, and she can laugh at the time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and loving instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the activities of her husband and is never idle. Her sons rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also praises her. Many women are capable, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord will be praised. Give her the reward of her labor, and let her works praise her at the city gates. So I hope that message reaches out to each and every one of the mothers out there, and you guys know that God loves you, but God loves everyone. But today it's just a special thank you to the mothers to let you know that we all recognize the sacrifice that you've made for us, and we love you, and we pray for your continued blessings, and that God just continues to guide all the wonderful mothers out there to be good parents, and to let their children be good children to their parents. So God bless all the mothers out there, and God bless each and every one of you. So if you don't take anything else away from this episode, just remember it's Mother's Day, and your mother is another blessed person who we should definitely honor. And if you haven't yet, go buy that flower, go get the flowers and get the card, and just drop in and drop it off. I'm sure most of you have already taken care of your mother, and if you are a mother out there, God bless you and happy Mother's Day. But that's going to be it for me. I want to say thank you to everybody for watching. Again, if you have not hit that subscribe button, now's a great time to do it, especially since at the end of the episode, come here and hit the big red subscribe button. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications so you'll be notified when these videos get posted. But that's going to be it for me. I want to say thank you again. This has been Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed, and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.